Hello, hello. Hey, everybody. Our guest today is essentially the real-life Colonel Hannibal Schmitt from the A-Team. A recently retired lieutenant colonel himself, he's logged over 30 years of service in the Green Berets, including commanding, planning, and executing special ops all over Europe, Asia, and North Africa. He hung his beret on getting ahead of Al-Qaeda and preventing the network from spreading. His weapon of choice? Kindness. Since retirement, he's shifted his focus towards leadership consulting with Fortune 100 companies through Azimuth Consulting Group and his upcoming extreme outdoor development track called the Traverse. Give it up for my friend Chris Schmitt.
My name is Brian Shinborn. I'm an explorer of people, places, and culture. In my travels, spanning over 20 countries across 4 continents, I've had the pleasure of engaging in authentic conversations with amazingly interesting people. These are their stories, on location and unfiltered. Presented by 8B Media, this is Half the City.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Oh, man, I love it, dude. Oh, I can't play the A-Team soundtrack, but I've got that music playing in my head right now.
Brian, hey, thanks for this opportunity to chat.
Yeah, dude, let's have a good one. So, listen, I'm a former Marine, and you're an Army guy. We can't all be perfect, but I've always held a special place in my heart for special ops guys, especially Green Berets.
Right on.
Yeah, man. I'm really interested in hearing as much as we can talk about your time in the Green Berets, things that you've done, just overall strategies and things like that. But first, I was hoping maybe you could tell me a little bit about your origin story, how you got into the military, how you eventually made your way to Green Berets, got your commissioning, that sort of thing.
I never had really any intention of joining the Army. And that's the funny thing about having spent 30 years in the military is that was never any sort of plan. It just continued to be fun. And as a result of being fun and it provided for the family, it actually provided a great life for my family.
Yeah.
And the most interesting thing, I think, is that it also provided me a ton of autonomy. In the last 10 years of my career, I was autonomous to do some really cool stuff that provided me purpose and provided me with a real sense of doing something important. It's funny to say that the reason I joined the Army is because I wasn't accepted into West Point.
Wait a second. How does that work?
So, as it turns out, I get a letter from West Point saying, we're sorry, but we don't think you'll be academically successful at our institution. So I quickly do some research and I determined that enlisting in the infantry is the easiest thing to transfer out of because it's only the infantry of the Army. Mm-hmm. And I'll figure out a way to get to West Point. Okay. And that kind of relentless pursuit of an opportunity to do what my noteworthy goal was brought me to enlisting. And after a couple years and numerous cracks at the SAT, I got accepted into the academy.
Word on the street is that this bullet sponge took 12 rounds of SAT testing?
I was called a math ignoramus. There's a bunch of friends out there that are chuckling right now.
That's probably putting it lightly.
Yes, the dean at the prep school for the Army, where prior service guys got a chance to transfer into the academy, with his Bronx accent, Dean Beale called me Mr. Schmitt, you're a bit of a math ignoramus. And there you go. And I validated that by failing calculus my freshman year as well. Not because I wasn't working my ass off, but because I wasn't necessarily skilled as a mathematician.
What's funny is I had a conversation with with Dr. Joe Trackman recently, talking about, he's at the forefront of like elite performance and stuff like that. The cross between optometry and experimental psychology. He was also told that he would never be able to do science in his life. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of funny how like certain people try to limit you on things.
Well, it's all about mindset. It's actually one of the things that I really geek out on. Carol Dweck wrote a book on the ideas of having a growth mindset.
Yeah, fixed versus growth, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that having a mindset of achievement, having a mindset of being willing to learn and grow into something is the essential piece of a high performer. Absolutely essential.
No, absolutely. Okay, so you failed math a dozen times. You enlisted in the infantry, essentially a bullet sponge. What year was this? Was this like the late?
So I enlisted in 1986, and my first deployment was whacking coca plants, during our war on drugs. And actually the war on drugs kind of stayed with me, not only something that we were doing in the light infantry from Fort Ord, California in the 7th ID in my enlisted time, but it still followed me. I studied Sendero Luminoso and the Shining Path at West Point and did all of my papers on what it was that we were doing when I was involved in all that stuff as an enlisted guy. And it allowed me to study insurgency and groups and the energy behind the type of stuff that became incredibly valuable after September 11th.
Oh, sure.
After 9/11, my work at West Point gave me insight and some background that was very valuable as a special forces officer once I went that route.
So when you were in the infantry, enlisted, like how long were you there before you eventually passed the SATs and got into West Point?
I just spent about 2 years before I got a chance to go to the prep school, which was another 10-month program. And then from that, went to West Point and graduated West Point in 92. So, a little bit over 6 years was necessary to get through West Point, unlike the 4 of my classmates.
Yeah, but I mean, whether it's West Point or other universities, I mean, you've got 7-year seniors and stuff like that, right?
Well, it was great because my enlisted time, and I returned back to the infantry as an officer, my enlisted time gave me a ton of credibility with my troops as a platoon leader.
Sure.
And the fact that I had done a lot of the same things that they had done. So from day one, I was already credible, or those that didn't know because I didn't flaunt it.
Yeah.
They would give me the grief, hey, second lieutenant, you don't really know what you're doing. And, the squad leaders after a little bit of time would whisper in their ear and go, he's already done 10 of these 25-mile road marches. This is your second. You're spouting off. And my guys took care of me. And I think that was one of my themes, is that if you approach your leadership style not only with your team, but then you exude that kindness forward as you're getting stuff done, I think that's an essential tool.
Interesting. So, you're an officer, you're back in the infantry. Aside from being a butter bar, like where were you stationed at that point?
So I was stationed up here at Fort Lewis.
Up here being Seattle?
In the Seattle area, yep.
Okay.
So actually down in Tacoma at now called Joint Base Lewis McChord, the unit that I was in California at Fort Ord got moved up. But when it got moved up, the 3 brigades that existed of the 7th ID, 2+ of them were deactivated. It's the early 90s. That kind of thing is going on. And that separate regiment then was highly deployable for little problems.
Little problems like what?
Like, well, we're still doing the counter drug thing in a lot of different places. And one of the counter drug missions that I had a chance to do was to be deployed to Hardship, Coronado.
Hardship Coronado. So I know Coronado, like Coronado Island, right?
Exactly.
So Coronado Island, for those of you that don't know, it's just off the coast of San Diego. You can get there by bridge. There's a famous hotel, Hotel del Coronado. That's where this movie Some Like It Hot, the classic with like Marilyn Monroe and whoever else was in it. That's where that was filmed. But also on Coronado, Hardship. Also in Coronado, that's where the Navy SEALs are trained on the West Coast.
Right.
So, whether you're saying it's a hardship or not, I mean, that's debatable. I'm wondering what you were doing in Coronado.
So we were, and that's exactly it. And that's why we were there, is that we stayed there on the same base that the SEALs do their BUDS training. And my scout sniper team assisted the Border Patrol in tracking drugs. I was qualified as a spotter.
Oh, okay.
Officers really shouldn't be pulling triggers.
I mean, I'm just trying to understand what your unit looked like. Was it a sniper unit?
So it was 5 sniper teams and 3 recon elements.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So it was actually 3 sniper teams and
so was this
and 5
SF?
recon. So this is still infantry.
Okay.
So it's a reconnaissance scout sniper platoon attached to an infantry battalion. But my battalion commander was a guy named Mick Bednarik, who became a Ranger Regimental commander. And that opportunity gave, the trust that people had in Colonel Bednarik was extended to me because sweet. I was one of his, I was his selected lieutenant to be after my line platoon to be the scout sniper platoon leader, which was super neat because it allowed for us to help the Border Patrol do a better job at interdicting drugs. We weren't rounding up illegal aliens when they're crossing the border. In fact, there's a whole lot of legislation that prevents us from doing that. Posse Comitatus, Treaty of Guadalupe. The bottom line is there were a number of things that were involved in this mission. And at the time, Janet Reno was informed regularly on what we were doing because we were using troops so close to the border.
Yeah.
The cool part about this whole thing, though, is that it was in a capacity of support and try to help the Border Patrol do a better job, utilize infrared technology better, and help them as they were being distracted. The fascinating thing then and now is that it was so easy to come across the border, so that buses were pulling up at the border and people were sliding down the drainage ditch just in Tijuana and coming north. Like, there was no way for that to even be slowed.
Wow.
And this isn't a discussion on the wall or discussion about, many of the different Republican or Democratic arguments here. I think what's interesting is that this problem has been ongoing for years through administrations on both parties, and no one has addressed it. And that's the real sad thing, I think, is that there should be something done that would not only serve our country, but serve the people that are caught in this situation.
So, no, I mean, I think that's a pretty, it's an interesting point. It's an interesting take on it because everything seems to be so political these days about all that stuff. When you're talking about these people sliding through the drainage ditch or whatever, are you focused on these immigrants crossing the border, or are you looking at something else?
That's a great point. And what our focus is stopping drugs. So anybody with a big pack obviously is now a person of interest, and there's armed guards or coyotes or armed guides that would guide these people with the packs, which would wait and they would push all the people in one direction so the Border Patrol reacts to them. And then they would go and move the drugs in another direction.
Classic diversion.
Absolutely. Just push the herd in one direction and slide the other way. And so when that would occur, we would keep eyes on, and as this became more and more successful, and we wouldn't do the apprehension, we would just help the appropriate legal officials do what they need to do. As that became really successful, then it meant that bigger packages were being moved further to the east.
Oh, sure.
And it was key in that, 1995 time frame of really putting a dent in some of the post-Christmas movement of cocaine and marijuana across the border.
So you're saying that after Christmas, the Mexicans are trying to move their Christmas trees and snowflakes up
Everyone
north?
takes a break for Christmas.
There we go.
The drug guys.
Even the drug cartels.
They're still good Catholics.
They're good Catholics. That's right.
Yes, sir.
Right on. So this is your early years as an officer, still infantry, kind of your first tour of duty, right? A Colonel Hannibal training.
In training.
I know you served in Green Berets, but like, at what point did you move into Special Forces? Like, and where was the transition there?
Well, I knew even when I was at Fort Lewis that Special Forces was a direction I wanted to go. I think even like towards the end of my time at West Point, I had identified that being a Green Beret is something that I wanted to do. And I think that I wanted to do it because the concept of being part of the Army that is working on harder problems, that's enabling others, that mission on the border, being involved with Cuban refugees in Gitmo, which was another mission that I had. All of those doing things of strategic consequence really resonated with me. So going Special Forces was something that I really wanted to do, and it really resonated with me. And I think it was the only way that I was going to stay in the military. That's where my initial Special Forces training starts off, with training at Fort Benning, Georgia, and then continues to Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
In Georgia. Okay. So, I mean...
I was pursuing the Best Ranger competition, and Best Ranger is about a 72, 75 hour continuous road march.
Continuous
shooting. It's a hard event that you have to be Ranger qualified for.
So hold on.
It's the ultimate.
This is crazy. I just need to wrap my arms around this really quick and try to unpack it a little bit for the listeners. So you're a Ranger at this point.
I'm an infantry officer.
How many people have a Ranger tag? That's
tab.
Oh, so how many people have a Ranger tab? Like, out of the whole Army? So there's 1 million people in the Army. Is this like a 10% thing?
Probably less than that.
Yeah.
And it's probably less than 10%. I won't go as far as say only 5, but.
So essentially you're like elite of the everyday forces, right? I mean, because it takes a lot to get that tab out, imagine.
Absolutely. It's a difficult school. In fact, even if the question comes up of what's harder, gaining a Special Forces tab or gaining a Ranger tab, I would say they're different.
Okay.
Ranger school was intense. Most people lose 30, 40 pounds while they're in Ranger school.
And how long is school?
It's 60 some days. There was a different
not
format.
Quite as hard as the Marine Corps boot camp, but that's
exactly not as hard as boot camp and the Crucible.
You're right.
Right?
Well, that's what I was thinking, right? You're talking about, the Ranger competition. Or,
how hard could it be? It was only like 3 days. How hard could it be?
It's the Ranger.
So you're running 25 miles with a full combat load pack that you just jumped in, and you did a land navigation course, and then you're about to go shoot, and then you're going to do a several mile paddle on the Chattahoochee River, and then you're going to do a bunch of skills tests, and then you're going to do another land nav course, and then you're going to do a helocast in, set up a poncho raft, set up a field expedient radio system. The competition changes every year. The bottom line is, if you compete in the Best Ranger competition, you're a badass.
I mean, I'm not denying that.
You compete in the Best Ranger competition and win. You are truly a master of your profession.
So where did you fall in this competition?
I competed in twice, and we were in second place up to the last night, and we exceeded our time on the land nav because we shot for another point, and we ended up finishing sixth.
That's respectable.
And the guy that I did the competition with the first time, Mark Nygaard, had done the competition for 5 years in a row beforehand. A truly hard individual.
Wow, that's crazy, dude.
No, it's great. Absolutely. It was a great experience. It was my chance to do kind of an Olympic level competition.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit more about this really quick. So you said it was like 72, 75 hours. Is that in continuous, or
it's over a weekend?
Sleeping at all? Or?
Well, you kind of catch little naps between events. If you got to go to the range and shoot this certain weapon, they'll put the teams in order, so the teams will go one after the other, so you might have 20 minutes. And as you know, from being a Marine, any chance you get a chance to get some rack, you just pull out your poncho liner. And
well, I'd take my Kevlar helmet and like lodge it on my chest and just put my chin down on it, like that was my pillow.
Yeah. When you're a little bit more further advanced, you pull out your poncho liner and you wrap up.
We can only aspire.
Once you really perfect it, remember 30 years versus 3.
Exactly.
You perfect
the art. It was 2, actually. So.
There you go.
I aspire for that 3rd year.
All good.
Okay, so cool, man. Like you did the Ranger thing, the competition, Best Ranger competition twice. Top 10, 6th place the first time, probably very close to or better, or around
the second year I got hurt during the event.
Okay. So did not finish.
Did not finish.
Right. Okay. So like, you're doing the Ranger training. How long were you in the Rangers before you went into Green Berets? And do you have any like awesome stories?
While we were in Savannah, that's when I was going through Special Forces qualification course.
Oh, right. Okay.
So at this time, I'm the reason why I left Washington is because I had already gone through selection and was selected.
Got it.
And I earned my Green Beret in 1998.
Awesome.
So
you're a Green Beret. Essentially, you're a Green Beret for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years of your 30.
Yeah, 18 years.
Yeah.
So I retired in November of 16, and was lucky enough to continually have Special Forces assignments.
Nice. I know during your time as a Green Beret officer, you did Special Forces operations all over Asia, Europe, North Africa. What are some of these operations that like pop out? As soon as I say, hey, what was it like to be a Green Beret officer? What were some of these operations like? What are some of these that would pop out?
The cool thing is really one of the first missions, the first real big mission is one that always sticks with you. And our team was lucky enough to be selected to go into Kosovo. So it's early spring of 1999. President Clinton is saying there's no ground troops. We've got no boots on the ground in Kosovo, which unfortunately we're sitting in Kosovo with a BBC little transistor radio on the BBC, hearing that there's no ground troops in Kosovo. So we decided that we just wouldn't wear our boots that day and would have to wear our running shoes so that we wouldn't wear boots. The bottom line is it was a great mission because we were tasked with finding the commander of the Kosovo Liberation Army, of the UÇK. And instead of just chasing headlong into country, we were deliberate enough, and we thought about it some, and we found his sister in a refugee camp in Macedonia. And then through his sister, we're able to find him quickly, even though we didn't know really what he looked like. We didn't let anybody know that, but we didn't have a real clear picture of even what his full name was. I had a code name and a voice intercept of what he sounded like, which was super neat to be able to be successful real quickly.
Listeners, just imagine this, all right? We're talking 20 years ago. 1999. The search engine of choice is basically Yahoo.
Is Yahoo.
Google just been started like a year or two before that. The internet's okay in America, but it's still the dial-up. They're like,
Exactly.
So parts of the world like Kosovo, where do you think their internet is? So these guys are by themselves, basically, right?
And we had to validate, some of the atrocities that were happening by the Serbs, so that it improved the, president's decision to actually, pursue bombing, to validate that some of the atrocities that had happened in Bosnia were happening there.
Right. Well. Again, I'm just trying to visualize, the technology's not nearly where it was today. You've got a part of a name or a code name and one voice intercept, and somehow you guys perfected the art of the manhunt to find this guy without having to go into Kosovo guns blazing
and not twisting anybody's thumbs or
it's crazy.
Well, I think what we did is to go with that thought again from the beginning, is what we did is we maximized kindness. There was it was clear that we were trying to help. And by treating people well, we gained trust. And through that trust, I was able to leverage that relationship to do a much better job of not only being able to understand what was going on in the area, but ultimately help with the demilitarization of in essence, what was a terrorist organization.
That's amazing.
It was really neat stuff, and that's why I think it really sticks out. Is that it was pretty high adventure to be walking into this armed compound. One of my 18 Charlie. So one of my trusted guys on my team and I are walking in. He's armed as my bodyguard inside this compound. And we sat down, and over Turkish coffee, I quickly learned that he spoke German so that we could chat.
So you speak German as well?
My Nachname is Schmitt.
My family name's Schindborn, but I don't speak German.
Well, and we lived in Germany as well. I had plenty of reasons why I should speak pretty decent German.
Yeah.
Plus, I had German training before as part of being a Green Beret, there is a requirement for language.
Oh, okay. Did you know, before sitting down to Turkish coffee with this guy, did you know that you guys would share that common language?
No. We had kind of, as we were doing niceties through translators, we learned that he spent some time in Switzerland. And when he said that, I asked him if he spoke German.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Right? That's about all I know.
Something like that. It's pretty close.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch? There we go. Yeah, I was saying, my German's terrible. It's non-existent. So then, so you're talking to him through German.
So then we were able to build a great relationship. And I'd learned that he was a grammar teacher. And now and the interesting thing now is that he's very much part of the political process. He's a president of one of the political parties in
today.
Kosovo. Yeah.
Interesting.
And had been, for a number of years, had been the Minister of Education. When I left country, I asked him, what did his future look like, or what was going to happen next now that the war was over? And he said, well, maybe be the president someday. And I said, maybe the bigger or better thing would be to be involved with the education process, since he has some.
So you influenced that.
Well, it's interesting what little things can do or change.
Oh,
or
sure.
just a little off-end comment. I mean, it might have been the direction he was heading anyway, or maybe didn't even want to do it. But it's interesting.
You'll never know one way or the other.
Exactly.
But it's kind of a cool little
it's an
aside,
interesting
right?
story,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think if you live your life in a way that you pursue things relentlessly, if you pursue noteworthy causes, if you do them with full commitment and you do them because they're right,
yeah,
it's easy just to put your whole self into it. It's easy to be your best self, and it's easier than to start a movement.
Mm-hmm.
If you're pursuing noteworthy causes, it's easy to believe in it. Mm-hmm. And then it's easy to commit and it's easy to energize others and you don't have to think about it a ton.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
that's what I've been fortunate enough to have. I had that in my career and I have it now.
Nice.
And that feels pretty good.
Nice. So, I mean, obviously we've got some common themes along the relentless stuff, right? I'd like to think some commonalities along the kindness line. I like to think I'm a fairly kind person. I'm interested in hearing how those two things, how you might have utilized those two things in other operations as well. Like I know you were active during, pre and post 9/11, for example.
Absolutely.
Right. So I'm sure there's got to be some sort of things that you were involved in.
There's a bunch of real interesting stuff in Afghanistan. And when we stood up SOC Africa, there was also some opportunities that lied along the whole piracy thing off of Somalia.
Somali pirates.
But I think that the real PhD level stuff that I got to do, and I found it fun and fascinating that as my career progressed, often, you'll hear guys say that, I really love that job when I was a team leader, but since then I don't, I'm not as passionate. I was just lucky enough that I continually got jobs that I really loved. And as the J3, or in corporate speak, as the chief operating officer of a mission in North Africa, in which we were working really hard to get ahead of Al-Qaeda and Al-Qaeda influence in North Africa. And we knew that if we could provide a little bit of hope, and we could enable the militaries of those countries to provide some influence, and we could, through that influence, then create a security situation that allowed for World Vision or Catholic World Relief or other non-government, not-for-profit kind of organizations that want to do good, and then be able to project them and work with their military to be seen as a protector of their country versus a robber of their country. That could get ahead of what Al-Qaeda was trying to influence these 99% Muslim countries that were, like Chad and Niger and Mali, Mauritania, poorest countries on the planet.
And they're probably playing off their fears too, I imagine.
Well, I mean, no doubt about it. Like, it's easy. The literacy rate is low. You're going to places that are still somewhere between 13 and 1500. And to be able to find good people. And I mean, I think that's where I want to take this story, is that I befriended the commander of the Special Operations Forces in Chad, and Colonel Yusuf Mary, top 10 good people on the planet. Awesome. We would be asked by the State Department, so, what's the deal with Chad? Like, we're not, we understand why we're, super involved in Mali and Niger, but what's the deal with Chad? And we're like, well, but Colonel Mary he's the blue chip athlete. Like, he is a solid good guy. And because he's a good guy, we need to enable good guys. I mean, if you're an NFL football team, when you're in the draft, if you're a winning team, you pick the best athlete.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You even if that guy isn't exactly in the position that you need the most help, you pick the best athlete because championship teams are able to fill gaps in other places.
Exactly.
And that was the same kind of methodology that we had with this commander of forces in Chad. And fast forward after I had left country, after working there for 4+ years, across the region in Chad, Mali, and Niger. And after conversations with the president of Mali and after conversations with the commanding generals in Niger and, just fascinating opportunities across Morocco and Algeria, and able to help them kind of wrestle with this problem. After all that, it was great to see these countries, and in this case, Colonel Mary, respond when Al-Qaeda started putting some influence in northern Mali. They packed their trucks and drove across Niger, got some gas, and went behind Al-Qaeda's forces in northern Mali in the Tagargar Mountains and attacked their headquarters. I mean, all without a political, there was no political relationship that caused them to do that other than this guy knew that it was the right thing to do because we had spent enough time doing the right thing with him.
Wow.
Right?
Dude, I mean,
that speaks volumes, right? That's super cool.
Awesome.
And to be able to maintain a relationship with a guy like that, I've lived a blessed life.
Yeah, dude, I hear that. Are you still in contact with each other?
Pen
pals or something.
No,
you guys write each other.
Yeah, I texted him yesterday.
I'm just kidding, but that's. I mean, to be honest with you, like finding people that are true heroes and whatever it is that they may be doing, right? They do the right thing. They find the right people, whether it's protecting the population of a country or whatever else, right? It doesn't always have to be military, but finding
well,
those
I think that's a great segue. I think that it isn't even
finding
the amazing people. It's enabling people to be their best self.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, 100%. Enabling people to be their best self is really the platform of what I did as a Green Beret, and it's the platform of what I do now with my company, Azimuth Consulting Group. Azimuth works hard to build self-awareness of our clients, and through that self-awareness, help individuals and teams be their best selves so that they can increase value for their company, improve market share, ultimately find their superpowers so that they can do the best that they can do.
Nice.
And there's goodness that comes out of there. There's clearly goodness that comes that way. And it's great for me being a transitioning veteran. I feel like I'm not that far removed from Lieutenant Colonel Schmitt, doing things in hot, dry, dusty places. To be able to work with local companies here in Seattle and help amazing things happen is very, very cool.
Nice. Oh man, dude, I'm getting my eyes are getting moist.
Don't get all teary. You need a cleaning?
I might need a hug.
No, it's good stuff, man, and it's fun, and it's fun to be able to. One of the things that my company does, and I'm kind of prepping for it right now, is we do a 4-day, 3-night leadership expedition called the Traverse.
That's the Traverse, right?
Yeah, and the Traverse is a super cool opportunity to help my clients gain perspective and think about that perspective and translate it into action, and to commit and recommit to the things that are their priorities in their life. And I find that at the end of the expedition, those leaders, those people that are already extraordinary, they're recharged and they're energized.
I would say it's
they're
one
on
of those,
their
it's
they're
one
on
of
the
those things
azimuth,
where,
right?
like, people, leaders like that, right? Or people that maybe have gone to certain lengths in their career or the professional life or whatever, and maybe they've gotten to a consistent point, right, where they're not necessarily being challenged or things like that, and they go through something where they have to put so much physical and mental and emotional effort into something, maybe by themselves or with a team or whatever. You do something that you never thought you could have done before. You come out of that and you learn a little bit about yourself and the other people that you did it with.
Mm-hmm.
You come out of that not only with bonds formed with those people, but you come out of that realizing, hey, man, like there's so much more. There's so much more out there. There's so much more I know about myself. There's so much more I can do based on what I've learned about myself and how I respond to things.
There's not only a value of being with other extraordinary leaders, but there's also some incredible value of just being able to unplug, and being in nature. And this Traverse is going through the Montana Rockies. I mean, it's an extraordinary spot, and there's tons of value of going through something that's structured, that will, in the beginning, we do some self-awareness work with the Berkman method. It's a psychoanalytic tool that's more than 65 years old and has a massive population size. So it's a very valid and reliable tool that helps people see and understand how they look at the mountain and how others could be seeing it from a different perspective because of their character makeup, and realize that not only do they, just as much as they need something, others may need that something different, and to be able to adjust their communication in a way to be able to help them succeed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kind of to piggyback off from that, I'm a firm believer, and you may or may not agree with me on this, but I'm a firm believer that everybody is different and everyone is evolving. And when I say everyone is different, I believe that everyone is kind of like a collection of their moments and their reactions to those, right? And I say everyone's constantly evolving because based on that collection, like every day, every moment, that collection is growing, right? Mm-hmm. So based on that collection, that helps form that helps form your frame of reference, your knowledge base, how you see the world based on past experiences, right? And so if you see things one way,
I like to think of it, we connect where we're the same, but we contribute where we're different.
Yeah.
So in the space
that's
that
awesome.
You're different, that's your sweet spot, you know? And instead of thinking that in the space that I'm different, that's where I'm just weird. No, in the space that you're different, that's your niche. That's your strength. And that's what, through my executive coaching, it's in some of those places that you may think is different. That's where your real superpower is.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun working with the people that have brought you the Starbucks tie-dye frappuccino this week.
Yeah, for sure.
It's fun, enabling success in Fortune 100 companies, because they're really making some product. That those successes mean jobs for lots of people. Those successes mean value in the marketplace.
Absolutely.
And that's rewarding. It's made me feel, now that I'm coming up on 3 years post-military, it makes me feel like I'm still pursuing something of big value.
Interesting. No, that's a great way to put it. Like, for me, I've always been like insanely curious about people and cultures, right? Like that's why I've reached out and I've gotten to know you and everybody else. I'm just curious about what makes people tick, their backstory, how they think about things, from the people side, but then from the culture side as well. It's just like, because culture is essentially a big group of people, right? So they've got a lot of shared experiences and stuff. And, so I like to try to dive as deep into those cultures as well. But it's interesting how many people are out there that do have those abilities to have a big impact, to enable a lot of people to do things, whether it's running Starbucks and impacting thousands of lives with employment, millions of lives with, with that standard brand in-house, as well as with the coffee and all of that other stuff. Or whether it's somebody impacting somebody in a local community,
or even, it's like this veteran residence thing, to be able to, your conversation with Joseph earlier today, trying to enable someone who's created something that could help millions of people, and helping him get that to market. That's,
dude, as soon as he gets that money that he's looking for, it's, game on.
He's changing lives.
Yeah.
And being able to help him get to that right person at the right place.
Yep.
That's as a community, that's our calling. As a community, and it's not just even as a veteran community, it's how we all take care of each other. That's good stuff. If we all take that perspective, we can really go somewhere. And that's really why I love living out here in the Pacific Northwest. I live out in North Bend. We were very deliberate on our choice of locations of where we wanted to live post-military, and North Bend means that I live less than a kilometer from like 10 great hikes.
Isn't that awesome?
The Middle Fork. Last night I led a hike on Rattlesnake Ledge, which is a great overlook of it kind of sits right over a mountain lake. Nice. And kind of meet up with a veterans group called Team RWB and lead that up there.
So refresh my memory really quick. You are like the chapter captain,
right?
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about Team Red, White, and Blue? Tell the listeners a little bit about it.
The great thing about Team Red, White, and Blue is it's simple. And that, ultimately, I think that keeping it simple is the key to success. Our mission statement is enrich veterans' lives through physical and social activities in order to connect them with the community. So quite simply, just having an opportunity to meet up and go for a hike, go for a run, meet up at Rachel the Pig here in Pikes Market. We'll run down along the water, and basically just do an easy 5K, come back to Rachel the Pig and grab donuts. So what's
Rachel the Pig?
The pig in the market, in Pikes Market, the pig. The pig.
I don't know, man. I've only been here for a couple of months. I'm not normally based here. I think I've been to Pike's Place or Pike Market or whatever like once. Wait, is it the big like bronze pig?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it had a name.
Of course it's got a name.
Rachel the Pig.
Hey, Marine. Oh, his name is Brian.
His name is Brian.
I thought he was just a Marine. The pig's got a name?
I don't know, man. I guess I just didn't realize.
Oh, man. Come on. All right. So anyways, the bottom line is we're meeting up at the pig, the big bronze pig.
Nice.
We'll go and sweat for a little bit. We won't wear reflector belts because we're no longer in the military.
There you go.
we'll come back and we'll have a donut or something and a coffee and do a high five and drive on. But
Nice.
you know what's great about that is that it's all the good stuff of the military, that community stuff.
Yeah, and it's none of the bullshit.
And there's no bullshit because we're just going to go for a run and grab a coffee.
Yep. Don't got to worry about the hierarchy. Don't got to worry about pressing your camis. Don't got to worry about
No silliness.
shoot shine.
No silliness.
No silliness.
Right?
You don't got to worry about digging a fighting hole on the freaking side of the Rocky Mountains.
No, and it's just about community. And it's that same thought we were thinking about before. And then it becomes the responsibility as a member of that community to help each other out.
Nice. You know what I think is interesting? I'm shocked about your experience with the Green Beret stuff as where you're overcoming, I don't know, for lack of a better term, you're overcoming like enemy opposition through relationship building, treating people humanely, right? Enabling people, that kind of stuff. I'm shocked by that because I always would have thought the Green Berets are just like coming in, kicking ass, taking names.
Well, Johnny Rambo, he just shoots everybody up with a 60 cal. But let's go back to Hannibal Smith.
Okay, let's talk
guys,
Colonel.
The A-team, I guess BA does like
BA kicks
usually
ass.
he beats somebody up from time to time, but
BA
but they never like shoot anybody in the face.
Yeah, but they blew some shit up. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
there were casualties.
Wasn't in the Boy Scouts. I mean,
it was not the Boy Scouts. It wasn't even the Man Scouts.
The bottom line is that there's always an opportunity to try to do things in the smartest way possible.
Oh, sure.
That minimizes hardship.
Yeah, no, definitely. I get that.
And I think that whether it's being a Green Beret or if you want to translate that into now civilian life, there's always a way to maximize profit without kicking people in the shins.
You don't got to be dirty. You don't got to play a dirty ball. To finish that thought really quick, like at first it was shocking to me that like, oh, that's how you were operating as a Green Beret. But then secondly, I think it's amazing how you're able to take that and just keep doing what you're doing. Like it's the same general concept, right? You're treating people well, you're friendly, kind, enabling positive stuff, right? I mean, enablement can go either way, but enabling positive stuff. And those are the types of activities and skill sets that could really be translated just about anywhere. Like personally, I lived in Asia for 4 years, right? And I had an enjoyable time there. Right, I had a blast. Let's be honest. Can't wait to go back. But pretty much every place that I've been, and I've lived in a lot of different places, a lot of different cities in the country. I've lived in Asia, and everywhere that I've gone, I've been able to build a network of people as well, just by being kind, being friendly, taking a genuine interest in people, finding those things where people are either they're struggling with something or they're inspired by something and trying to help them.
Just providing hope.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a chance to teach in the staff college in India, so just outside of Chennai. Nice. And I had a discussion with a colonel there while we were teaching new counterinsurgency doctrine. This is like in the December of 2005 timeframe.
So who's the general that was bringing that one down? Who was the command that?
General Petraeus was.
Oh, Petraeus, yeah.
So General Petraeus was the commandant of the school at Leavenworth. And he was kind of in his break before he went right back into the war. And I was in my in-between time from basically from being tactical team leader to returning as a company commander into my Green Beret unit. So as part of this new counterinsurgency doctrine, we took it on the road and we validated in places like Sri Lanka they're dealing with Tamils they were just about wrapping that up at that time. In India, plenty of work in Kashmir and other places. Bangladesh. I guess what was great about this conversation in India was that the colonel said, in the Kashmir, if I can do something to get that 14, 15-year-old boy, if I can find him a job that he can just earn some change and he can have that change in his pocket. And with that change, he can have the hope, not that his family's going to let him, but he has the hope to buy that pretty girl a Coke.
There we go. Exactly.
He's not going to be a suicide bomber.
Yep.
And that really resonated with me. And that has been something that has really stuck with my own personal doctrine on how I led special operations and how I now perform as a leadership advisor. And there's no question. I advise in a way that if I can create hope, if I can help awareness of where your strengths are, if I can help gain some insight into how the organization could work better.
That's good awesome. Stuff. That's amazing, man. Dude, I got to tell you, I think this is a pretty good point to wrap it up. Pretty natural.
Right on.
Dude, I got nothing but respect for you, man. You are a badass.
Thanks, man.
You are badass. You are badass, dude. I have nothing but respect for you. And you know, to be honest, when I was growing up, people used to say, "Oh, don't mistake kindness for weakness." And so many people would do it. And I've always lived that way too. Like, don't mistake kindness for weakness. Be kind. But in my opinion, you are the epitome of using kindness as strength. And I think that's pretty awesome, dude. And I can't wait to see what you're doing with this consulting company. I want to hear all about this Traverse, man, because I've seen the videos you put out there. I'm like, dude, if you can get me over there, I'm in.
Yeah, right on. That'd be great.
I would love to be a part of that. Right on,
well, hey, thanks for this opportunity. This was super fun.
So much fun, man. Let me close by this. You want to plug anything?
Well, I think I'll plug the Traverse. Azimuth Consulting Group. Azimuth is kind of a crazy little word, but an azimuth is a direction on a compass. And when you shoot your compass to a certain direction and you're moving a certain distance in that direction, if you stray just 2 or 3 degrees off that direction, you won't end up where you want to be.
Oh.
If you just compromise 1 or 2 values of your company, you will find yourself in a place that's not where you want to be. And that's what's neat about what my company stands for and what we do is that we help leaders follow their azimuth, and they maybe even find where they are on the map, so they can determine their azimuth, so that they can successfully get to where they want to go.
Nice.
And the Traverse ends up being a physical exercise and moving across. Now Montana. We're looking at the great possibility of doing it in Patagonia, right?
Dude, that would be awesome. Oh.
And there you go.
Nice. For listeners, though, if they want to find out more, like, where can they go?
Well, in the show notes, we'll put the...
Sounds great. Yeah, we'll put the website addresses, we'll put the social media accounts and stuff like that in the show notes. So if you're interested, please check it out. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Right on.
Chris Schmitt, everyone. Have a good one.
Brother. Cheers.
You've been listening to Half the City with Brian Shinborn, presented by 8B Media. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your friends, and leave a solid 5-star review to ensure these stories get spread far and wide. For more information, as well as to listen to other shows, including Relentless, a survivor's search for passion, purpose, and inner peace. And beyond Relentless, be sure to check out 8bmedia.com. Thank you for listening.